Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you for being here. Wondering how the sound is if you're here. Let me just turn the fan off just in case that interferes. Okay. Feels like a summery day. What are we? September 14th, on the east coast of the US. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. Me and us in the Sun and Moon Yoga Studio community. We're located in Northern Virginia, two locations, a lovely, fairly new studio in Fairfax City. The people who live close by in that area is walkable. It's a great little part of town. Um, but we're also available virtually in this way. I think I'm the only one doing YouTube. Uh, we did we that was our first pivot, of course, during when COVID started, March of 2020. 5 days a week, 10 o'clock, half an hour of yoga. It was wonderful that we had that. So anyway, lots of options to do things virtually with us if you're farther away. Good morning, Steve. Good morning. Great to have you here. So connect with me through the chat. If you're here live, connect with me in the comments below later on after this. If you're meeting me later, meeting us later, connect with me through aLex at sunandmoonstudio.com if you like. Wait, it's aLex and Sun and Moon. Yeah, there's no yoga in that thread, but sunandmoonstudio.com, like our URL. So let's arrive. Let's arrive. As we feel ourself here, right in this spot, with the many different needs and desires of this human experience, this learning to just pause more often, learning to actively, to consciously, to uh, gravitate toward that option is so helpful because our wonderful nervous system takes us in the other direction as a default. It's a very advantageous aspect of our nervous system. Otherwise, we may not survive. But it easily goes on overdrive, and so we have to choose to turn the switch for the fancy word for it is the parasympathetic nervous system, or there's a lot of buzz these days in vagal tone, the part of our nervous system that needs us to choose. Let's turn this on. And it's as easy as that and as hard as that. So perhaps you may notice your experience may be different, but just as the words I'm sharing with you, the intention, the energy, the tone of my voice, your intention, what the switches you're turning on, perhaps already is bringing us to that more calm, quiet, pausing state of mind that is everywhere. And so it's really helpful in this. In one of the ways we can help ourselves to turn the switch, keep that switch on, or get back to it more often is feeling the ground that we are sitting on, feeling ourselves, the ground. And I always think of it, it's paired with gravity, the spinning of the earth's atmosphere. It's something we mostly don't notice. When something falls and breaks, we notice it. That's gravity. Or when it's difficult to get up off the ground, that's gravity. Um, but we can really, when we avail ourselves of noticing it, it actually is like an invisible grid that can support us. This grid of uh, pull toward the center of the earth, And whether you're sitting or lying down or standing, you can feel, you can orient yourselves a little, just little changes in the shoulders and the belly and the neck and head, the pelvis, can help us feel more easily here. And it's something I can't do it for you, or can point you to it, but we each have the ability to find that ourselves. And this is just this feeling gravity, feeling here on the ground is a huge part of my own practice, not just in this dedicated practice time, but through the rest of my day, where I'm sitting in the car, where I'm sitting at the computer, where I'm standing at the sink, where I'm crouching in my garden. And when I'm with others, this becomes a little more difficult because sometimes then we're oriented outward to the conversation, to the dynamics, but we can also kind of feel where we are. And this part of that's really important to our whole sense of being, and to be able to switch that calm switch on when we're in company with others, depending on who the others are, animals, friends, family, particular people, depending on the setting, in the yoga studio, downtown, on the streets, all different. But we have the capacity when we stop, we can build it to where I am. Feel my breath. Perhaps you feel like you've arrived. I'm going to move us into our movement piece, which is something I haven't done in a long time, and I remembered it this past week. Got on the floor and did these movements um, from a couple of yoga teachers. I credit learning this to a few of the visiting teachers, Teresa Murphy and Kara Sloan, who have come to visit us at Sun and Moon, and are friends of ours. And what I like about this is it's sort of a massage for the belly. It's a great stretch. It's a little bit of a twist here in this one. I might I might do it in two different positions, but maybe just in the twist. Or maybe in the bridge as well. So could do this seated. You could do this seated. You could do it in a chair. My recommendation is lying down. You could be on a bed, it's fine, or on the ground. So standing would be tougher, but also possible. So can adapt to that. So it would be, let me move this here for a moment. Shift my camera as we shift our position to the ground. Okay. And so just refined, actually paying attention to all that we did as we centered, as we move. That's another practice that's valuable to do. How are you moving from one point, one position to the other? This is the true meaning of vinyasa. And then just let your knees be bent or straight. I'm just letting my knees be bent and my feet. Just find the place, if you choose to bend your knees, where the feet can be easily kind of like you just feel sturdy. Like sometimes if it's too far out, that doesn't feel quite sturdy. Like if somebody was to come sit on your knees, where would be the sturdiest place? And find that by the feeling, listening through all your body. And take this moment to feel the parts touching the ground and how we respond to that, really being held by earth and gravity, which I think of like the hug is the way the earth hugs us to her. And then as we breathe, we might find our levity. I think of that as the complementing force to gravity. So we're not just smushed to the ground all the time, but we jump and we walk and we spin and we dance. And perhaps especially in this reclining position, if you're choosing that, but others you can find that too, but especially reclining, so many points of our body, so much of the mass of our body is held that we get the message, the different parts say, "Oh, yeah, I can let go. I don't have to hold her up in the shoulder area again. I don't have to work for that levity, for that lightness of being. There's a lot less to hold up." I'm going to take us into a light bridge pose, and you'll notice I don't have a sticky mat, so it's not gonna be a large bridge pose. Excuse me, I got that yawning release. A bridge pose is just that peeling away of the hips a little from the ground, and I like to envision the golden ball there and be conscious of breathing, that breath that connects us to every other living being, plants and animals alike, and also to the non-living. Hmm, something I don't know. The oxygen and the what is it? What's the other part? The carbon and what's O2? What else? There's other little elements in our breath, traces of things that probably are more mineral than animal or plant. So lifting and lowering, and just find that I've learned a couple different ways. Teachers have us do this, some diametrically opposed. And just some is like have the arch in your back and lift sort of from the more hip points. Others tuck and lift as if the tail is pulling and let the belly be concave. And it doesn't need to be high, just a little bit, and feeling the whole of yourself. Feel what how the shoulders, neck, head become the supporting parts. We're going to add our arms going up overhead. I did that kind of fluidly. You can let the arms be more straight and reaching. Mhm. And pair it with your breath so that you're exhaling coming down, you're inhaling coming up, and this is giving us a chance, this flow, this vinyasa, as the yogis called it, to observe what's happening moment by moment, and each moment of like each cell of the motion picture. Inhaling as we go up, and then pause and hold your breath a moment here, and then exhaling, come down. Let the breath begin, and then let the motion add in to the inhaling. Let the arms, let the motion stop, and the breath pauses. Pause on the exhale, and lower back down on the oh, oh. And on the oh, I made that wrong. Exhale. Sorry, that was a inhale up and pause, then exhale down. Sorry about that. Talking and trying to breathe. All right, this time you might do it with me or listen. We're going to inhale up, pause, exhale, and let after the exhale, pause after the exhale, and let the belly get really hollow. Stay paused on the exhale, lower down. The belly gets more and more and more hollow. And then inhale in place with a very hollow belly, but that might inflate a little more. And on that inhale and exhale, bring your arms down, or maybe at the inhale. All right, one more time, or a few more times. Inhaling, we're going lifting up with the hips, the arms. Stay here. As you exhale, hollow out the belly, let it hollow. And then after the exhale, pause. Let it get even more hollow. And as you inhale, come down. Release any holding. For a moment, you might feel a nice hollowing with the arms up, and then exhale, arms down. So, sorry, there's a lot here, so let's take it again. Inhaling, lifting hips, arms, exhale in place, and pause after your exhale so your belly gets really empty. Then as you inhale, come down, but keep the belly, like, hollow. Inhale more to the upper part of the chest. And then exhale, bring your arms down and give a little pause after the exhale. That last part I had a little muddled. So one or two more times. Inhale, lifting the arms, lifting the hips, whoops, whoops, lifting the hips. Exhale, and then Hold the breath out after the exhale, letting the belly be really hollow. Inhale, lower down, but start to keep that belly kind of hollow. The reaching of the arms keeps it hollow too. And then exhale, arms down. So I think there's 3 full breaths in that. One more time. Inhale, lifting hips, lifting arms. Exhale. And in the pause after the exhale, let the belly get even hollower, just as if you're pulling that belly back toward the spine. And inhale, lower down, but don't fill the belly. And then exhale, release everything as the arms come down. If you want, do a couple more of those. I need to see what our time is so that I keep us. I think we'll save the other one for next time. Yeah, I think we have time to do that one more. Let's do it. All right. So just relax in place now for a moment. Simply feel. I hope I've been audible. Okay. Check for the chat. See what's new here. See where you're feeling how accessible things were, how much this lined up with your hopes and joys, how comfortable you are with the space around and how we're relating to each other here, even in this remote way. And what was the final? And how you value this. So there's lots of different parts of our being that come into play as we're moving. All right, now we're take a twist, letting the legs come down. I'm letting my legs come over to the right, and I'm actually going to let it doesn't matter. I've put my cushion that I sit on, my folded blanket actually, come to the side, and the legs can just be, they don't have to be in any particular configuration, but so if you want, you can have some support. If not, that's okay too. Oh, let's do this. Yeah, let's do this twisted. So if you're going to the right, cross the right leg over. This gives a little more intensity. So you can do it this way or not if you like the other way. Yeah, this gives a lot more intensity to the hips and legs and can be then really useful to have something to prop the legs onto. Either way, so crossed or not crossed, legs over to the side, and then bring your arm, clasp your hands, interlacing your fingers and place them behind your head, sort of like for a crunch. And very similar to what we just did, but now instead of lifting the hips, as we exhale, we just lift our head. You can bring the elbows forward. There's different opinions on that, I know. And then exhale coming down. A couple more times. This simple one, I'm sorry, exhale coming up, inhale coming down. Nothing needs to be too intense. Make it accessible. Feeling of joyfulness, of a rewarded feeling of how it feels in doing this. And exhale, lift and pause on the exhale. Pull the belly toward the spine. Inhale in place. Exhale down, letting everything go. So a little bit different. Exhale as you curl up. Just a little bit is enough. After exhale, pausing after the exhale, take the belly toward the spine. Inhale in place. Exhale, come down. Inhale in place. Exhaling a little crunch. After the at the pause there after the exhale, take the belly toward the spine. Inhale in place. Exhale, come down. I'm going to change it up a little bit, the breathing and the motions. So next exhale, little curl, exhaling in the pause after the exhale, we empty the belly, keep it empty. Inhale in place. Exhaling, coming down, empty, empty belly, lifting the arms up overhead. And inhale, bring the hands back behind your head, back to the starting place. Exhale, coming up. Pause after the exhale, belly to the spine. Oh, what did I do? Inhale coming down, I think. No. Oh, I forgot. Sorry. Inhale in place, exhale down. Sorry, I've really messed that up. Let me try again. Exhale, lifting belly to the spine. It's been a long time since I've done these, and there's lots of different options. Inhale in place, exhale down, reach the arms up. That's a little different than what I did. Inhale in place. Exhale, curl up. Take the belly of the spine on the pause. Inhale in place. Exhale down, lifting the arms up overhead. Inhale in place. All right, you can play with that a couple more times any way you like. You could take it to the other side. I'm going to choose just to come to corpse pose for a moment, or sponge pose, as I like to call it, as it was called way, way, way back 50 years ago. Couple more repetitions. I'm going to come up to sitting, but you might choose to stay down on the ground. And when you finish your movement, you can take another half minute of movement before we go into meditation, stillness, and then just stop your movement and see, notice, feel, let yourself report to yourself what's happening, what's the resulting feeling. One of the important things for Moshe Feldenkrais's movement and theories I have been studying over a decade now that inform a lot of my yoga. I've blended it as many, many yoga teachers have, is that it's there's a lot of how we learn. There's a lot of our self-image has to do with how we learn, how we move, how we make choices, and how we learn is so important to adapting to whatever is new in our life. So much is we can be on autopilot and that we have learned and we benefit from, and our routines support us. Our self image is a big part of everything I've talked about, where we are in our body on the planet, what brings us joy, what benefit do we get, what we move toward, like a plant moving towards sunlight, how we feel the relevance of our social connections. It's all part of who am I? And I titled today's practice What We Value. So that's all blended in there. Who am I? And that's all driven a lot by what we value. So let's begin our meditation. You might be seated, you might be laying down, be in a chair. This will be about a 7-minute practice of silence and stillness. And all that we've done so far, I don't need to say much more. Everything we've done prepares us for this quiet sit, and also allows us, gives us any of the things we did, tools. We can come to our breath, tools for when we feel lost in this practice. We can come to the breath, we can come to feeling gravity and levity. We can come to see and feel, hear the reporting thoughts of our mind, those movements. I haven't talked about that so much today. That can just be just like clouds passing in the sky. Sky, ourself, in this metaphor, is unchanged, unharmed by any clouds, any storms. Sometimes a little tool you can use as you're sitting and you feel unsettled in some way is, where could I relax more? You find yourself on the part of the spectrum that is too sleepy, rather than maybe disturbed by active an active end of the spectrum, and maybe focus on the feel of the in-breath, perhaps even a pause at the top of the in-breath. Finally, something I haven't specifically noted today, but is so important, kind of noted at the end of who am I, just to relax back into that being that's prior to all manifestation, prior to all of becoming, but intricately interwoven, that spacious, infinite, boundless being. Another handful of breaths remaining together in this practice. Not sure how the sound of the bell came across. I don't think it works, but perhaps I did something different, bringing it close to my mouth to see if that's where the sound would be picked up. So, we transition from this practice with a bell and a bow, and just take a moment to note and feel what you know about what you're getting, what the information is that's coming in. The stories, what the experience, the postcard you would write to yourself from this half-hour experience together. What were the highlights? What were the frustrations? What's the feeling now? And as usual, I drew inspiration from somewhere outside of myself, and as I often do at the 7 o'clock in the morning, NPR broadcast of Hidden Brain. This one, I just caught parts of it, but I'm going back to gonna listen to the whole one, and I took the name of the book of this person interviewed, Emily Falk. Her book is What We Value, and I think I'll put the put that in the notes, these show notes, and, uh, I it's so interesting, it's such a different way, and it's her accessibility benefit, part of our identification, social relevance, and, sh it's gonna be a part 2 next week of our resistance to change. So she was interested in how we change, sort of like Moshe Feldenkrais, how we learn, how we change, and why we don't or why we do, and the very complex network of our being that plays into all that. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, I'll comment also on the thumbnail. That's a shop nearby where I live. That has a it's called Trade Routes, and they have all kinds of things made from all over the world, and, they have a wonderful little coffee shop, and when the weather's good, you can sit outside in front, and they have a wishing is it a wishing community wishing tree, wishing something, and you can put little tags of your wishes there, and I thought that kinda lined up with, the things we hope to see change, and this idea today of how can we be more aware of this is just a constant. It's a big industry, right? The self-help books, the resolutions we make, and we need to change, and yet some of the strategies that we take actually aren't so helpful. So, but as well, I want one more time emphasize, and I know I'm going over, and sorry. It's so important in all this process to pause, and those pauses we do in our breath are sort of like mini practices and metaphors that can spill over to reminders to pause when we're going full force on a pathway that we know hasn't helped us, or we can feel it's making us more tense, more tight. It's not really the right path, but it's sort of so familiar. And often if we can pause and go into that spaciousness of our being, things open up. I think there's many reasons why that happens, but they open up and another path becomes clear. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you too. Often, Nancy comes to watch, and Catherine Kamalesh from wherever in the world he and his wife, I'm forgetting his name right now, are, and such a joy to be together. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. And joy. See you next week.